Australian troops are tonight leading a manhunt for an Afghan Army soldier alleged to have murdered his Australian trainer, Lance Corporal Andrew Jones, before fleeing. In a separate incident, another Australian soldier died in a helicopter crash, bringing the total number of Australian fatalities in Afghanistan to 26. As the families of both men come to terms with their loss, others are wondering whether this war is winnable. Connor Duffy reports.
These are the faces of the fallen. Australians have become accustomed to this sad and growing honour roll that now stands at 26. Overnight, the list grew again, with the deaths of two more Australian soldiers, Lieutenant Marcus Sean Case and Lance Corporal Andrew Jones.
Devastated as any Australian or Australian soldier or former Australian soldier would be. These guys have dedicated, I suppose, their lives to doing as good a job as they can, and to go over there and obviously make that ultimate sacrifice is something that touches home to everyone.
Lieutenant Case died in a Chinook helicopter crash. The 27-year-old had previously served in East Timor and was the youngest of 6 children.
I hope it's some tiny factor in how the families think about these things, in the fact that publicly we should say and acknowledge that they're doing a great job over there.
The other Australian soldier, 25-year-old Lance Corporal Jones, died in a scenario long feared by the Defence Force top brass, gunned down by an Afghan guard he was training in the National Army. Lance Corporal Jones began in the Army as a cook and had also previously served in East Timor.
Of course, the particular circumstances of this incident are also disturbing, given that the perpetrator in question was thought to be our partner and was the recipient of our mentoring and training.
It would not be easy for anyone to be in that environment, have such an incident occur, and then just repair and patch up and move on.
So, Will, whereabouts were you serving?
Essentially, it was just...
Will Close is a former Australian Army captain who served with the Australian Mentoring Task Force in Afghanistan. His most recent tour of duty finished just last year, and he knows personally how hard it will be to restore the relationship between the two forces.
I'm sure the Afghan soldiers that they're working alongside as well are just as outraged or upset as to what's happened, and I'm sure both sides are working together to, patch up the team environment.
While it's the first time an Afghan soldier has turned a gun on an Australian, it's a betrayal other coalition forces are all too used to. The government has portrayed the shooting as the work of rogue elements. The Middle East expert Armin Seikl, whose brother resigned from the Afghan government of Hamid Karzai, believes the problems go much deeper.
My understanding is that the Taliban and their affiliates have succeeded in penetrating the Karzai administration at all levels, and that includes the Afghan National Army, the police, as well as the border guard.
There's no doubt at all that they will have infiltrated parts of it. There's no doubt about that at all. And of course, when we talk about the Taliban, I think one of the real challenges we face is that there is really no homogeneous Taliban. They're made up of very many different groups of people.
In Canberra, the Prime Minister and opposition leader were both quick to express their sympathy and bipartisan support for remaining in the war.
Whilst we feel the weight of this, our determination to see the mission through in Afghanistan must continue.
So we should stay the course, but obviously this is a sad and difficult day.
At this stage, it's only the Greens who are calling for Australian troops to be brought home from Afghanistan. But the growing casualty toll will add more pressure. And as the commitment approaches its 10-year anniversary, some are wondering whether the war is winnable.
Given the real progress that's been made on the military side over the last 6 to 12 months, we now have a fair chance of winning this war.
If the aim of the campaign, as it was originally, was to get rid of al-Qaeda, it's probably close to that. Will al-Qaeda make a comeback? It remains to be seen, but I suspect probably not. If it was to eliminate the Taliban and have in place an effective government in Kabul that was run by Karzai, I think that the debate is yet to occur. The jury's out on that issue, I'm quite sure.
Major General John Hartley is a former director of the Defence Intelligence Organisation and one of Australia's most distinguished veterans. He was wounded 3 times in the Vietnam War and says the issues in Afghanistan are far more complex than that long war.
Simply because of the makeup of the people in Afghanistan. In Vietnam, of course, we dealt with the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese, and that was fairly straightforward. We also ran a counterinsurgency operation with many significant issues which are the same in Afghanistan.
As the families of the dead soldiers come to terms with their loss and more caskets return to Australia, opinions are divided over how much progress is being made.
The security situation has been deteriorating, and in fact the Taliban have been able to expand their operations well beyond the provinces which border Pakistan.
It is difficult. It sometimes seems like you're not making a huge amount of progress, but the small steps, when you go there at the start and see where you are at when you leave in your area of operations, but also with the Afghan soldiers working there and how much they've changed and more skillful they've become, you do feel like you're actually doing a good job.
Connor Duffy with that report.